and welcome to the second Hero Talks of the season. My name is Sigrid. I'm Director of Global Corporate Communications at Delivery Hero, and I will be your host. Today, we're here with two of the most successful sustainable startups in the food industry. Together with Just and Wisefood, we are going to deep dive into what it means to run a business where impact is the core purpose. Whether it's about providing nutritious and affordable sources of protein, reducing waste around food consumption, or making the industry more sustainable, all panelists present are working for a greener future. Before we jump straight into these headline topics, let me introduce our speakers. From Just, we've got Merissa, Chief of Staff to the CEO. We're joined by Wisefood's co-founder, Patricia Titz, and last but not least, Alexander Joel Carbonell is Delivery Hero's VP M&A and Investments, and he's joining us from the corporate side. Can we get a quick round of introductions? Merissa, will you start by letting us know who you are and what you do at Just?
Sure. So my name is Merissa, and I report directly into our CEO here at Just, and I managed the day-to-day operations, business development, and investment.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Patricia, do you want to do the same? Who are you and what you do at Wisefood?
Sure. So my name's Patricia, and I'm one of the co-founders of Wisefood, and I'm responsible for marketing and sales at Wisefood.
And last but not least, Alex, the floor is yours.
My name is Alex, and I joined Delivery about 3.5 years ago, just a couple of months before the IPO, and now I'm in charge of the M&A and VC part of it.
Thank you everyone for being here today. We're really excited to kick off the panel. Most startups struggle with going from the ideation stage to creating a scalable business, but that's not true for Wisefood, for Just, and neither for Delivery Hero. So let's try to discover the founding stories of these sustainable startups together. Patricia, Wisefood was literally conceived as a university project. Can you tell us how it all happened?
Yeah, sure. So I think everything just started out as a university project, as you just said. So we had the official task to think about solutions, how we could reuse apple fibers, which are leftovers of the apple juice production. And back then we thought it's very easy to just extrude them and make straws out of it. It was not that easy as we thought in the beginning, but that's how everything got started.
While Wisefood has a very student-based story, you could say that Just started even earlier, actually from your founder's Josh's childhood. Merissa, can you shed some light into what I'm referring to here?
Yeah, of course. So our company was founded about 7.5 years ago by Josh Tetrick, who is our co-founder and CEO today. Josh grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. Didn't have access had access to food that was cheap, but fast, not nutritious, and food that degraded the environment. And had a history of heart disease, like many of us do in our families, and was frustrated by the food system and noticed something was off at a very young age. And fast forward, he went to law school at the University of Michigan, then went over to Africa as a Fulbright scholar, went and actually worked for the United Nations, working with a lot of kids. And he saw a different type of hunger. He saw micronutrient deficiency, young children who don't have access to the essential vitamins and minerals that help with proper growth and development. And so being in Africa, he was frustrated by nonprofits, the ability to have fast impact and change. So he came back to the US and he started a company using capitalism as a force of change and a force of good in our food system. And that's how the idea of Just was born.
Thank you for sharing. That's quite a cool founding story. What I would be really interested to understand, and it's a question that goes to both Patricia and to Merissa, is when you realized that you could actually make a business out of your little startup idea, how did it go from really being just a cool idea that you thought had a purpose and could have potentially good impact to actually being a scalable business?
Would you like me to go first?
Whoever.
Sure, happy to jump in. So it's been quite a journey with our company. I've been here for 5 years, and the idea of identifying a particular plant in the world that could quite possibly scramble like an egg was definitely an idea. Our hypothesis was that there's over 391,000 plant species in the world, and there has to be one of them, right, that has this functional property that can gel like an egg. And so with this idea, we got our first seed funding, just an idea for $500,000. Our CEO jokes he was sleeping on one of his friend's couch when he was starting this company. And so the idea started, and we worked on it knowing that we might not ever reach our dream of finding this. And, through it, we built a machine learning discovery platform, the first ever patented technology to study plant proteins, to understand how they behave in food. What are their molecular properties? What are their functional properties? How do they behave? Do they aerate? Do they gel? Do they foam? And so through building this platform and screening over 1,000 plants, we found a particular type of bean called a mung bean. That when you extract the protein from it, you have that special property of gelation, that when the liquid hits the pan and at a high heat temperature, it gels. So that took about 4 years, which was a really long time for us who wanted to get to market and sell this product. And then what took even longer was scaling it up. So we hired our CTO, Peter Licari, who has a background in process engineering. And he was really able to scale up this protein extraction at scale. And then we have a group of Michelin star chefs and food scientists that took this particular type of mung bean protein, this special powder that scrambles like an egg, to make our Just Egg product that is in the market today. So all in total, last year was our first full year of sales of Just Egg. So it's been a long journey, but it's been a really exciting one.
And do you have like a pivoting moment where you realize that, okay, now we have something that scrambles as an egg. It's no longer a dream. We can actually sell this now.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started selling in late 2018, it was quite the surreal experience. But we were selling such a small amount. The amount of protein that we were producing wasn't to the degree of what we're doing today, and we weren't reaching a ton of consumers, but we saw the potential. And now fast forward where we are in 2020, we're the 9th fastest selling egg in all conventional grocery in the United States. We're the #1 selling frozen breakfast item in Whole Foods and other natural channels. We're outselling and outpacing growth of every single plant-based product on the market. And it's just been, I still think today, a surreal experience. I can't believe that it's in market and that consumers love it as much as we do.
I think, Patricia, you also share this surreal feeling of going from just having it almost like a side hobby project and then actually stepping into a real business. Could you share how that was for you?
Yeah, sure. I can share. So first of all, Merissa, it was very inspiring, very cool story. And for us, it was just like, I think we just started out as a student project. And yeah, as you said, we did it like because we thought the idea of recycling fibers, which are leftovers from the food production, is nice and we could do something meaningful. But it was a fun project, I would say. And then, but we got sold on the idea. And we did a crowdfunding campaign back then where we got a lot of positive feedback already, but still we thought that we could like sell it to a niche market because, I mean, we sold the straws for €1 or even much more expensive. So it was really, really expensive to produce them. But for the crowdfunding campaign, we got so much positive feedback also from retail, from press. So we decided to go on to put like more work in it. And yeah, then with the plastic ban, of course, which was announced in 2017, 2018, like, of course, that was the moment where we said, okay, maybe this is a great opportunity to have an impact, not only in the niche market, but into a really big market, and to really, have a greater impact, and also like sell to a mass market.
I think that's a really inspiring story. And I'm just curious, selling a straw for €1 each is pretty expensive. Who bought that?
I think a lot of, like, I wouldn't say straw lovers, but also like people who were really into sustainability. And back then the straw wasn't even stable. So it was only stable for like 5 to 10 minutes. But I think people they believed in us, and they believed in the idea. So I think like those people like already bought it because they wanted to support us and support the mission.
And they were fast drinkers.
I think you had to be like quite fast back then.
Okay, that's so cool. Another thing I would be curious to understand before we let Alex in, sorry, you're a little bit sidelined at the moment, is during your rather inspirational journeys, how important has it been to get the right investors on board as well? Because you've both been in a very early startup stage, now you're moving out of it. What has that meant for you?
It was very, very important because like we wanted to get investors who also like have the same values we have, but also investors we can learn from, who have way more experience and also are very hands-on. I would say that was very important to us. And so I think we didn't only want to have like the money, but also like have the values and the support and experiences. So for us, it was super important.
I totally agree with Patricia. All of those things are so important, to have investors that can help you learn and grow and develop and be the company, that you're striving to be. For us, what's really important for us is our strategic investors, plugging in Delivery Hero and others across the globe. We have some investors. One of our investors is the largest bakery company out of South Korea. And they are actually going to be one of our strategic partners, who is taking our special Just Egg formula, that mung bean protein that scrambles like an egg, and we sell that to them. And then they actually manufacture egg into bottles and cartons, and then they get it out into their distribution. So they, for example, own Paris Baguette and Paris Croissant. They license out Dunkin' Donuts. They're the largest international franchisee of Dunkin' Donuts, Shake Shack. And so pretty soon, having strategic partners and investors like this that understand your mission and also want to partner and collaborate with you to help you grow in particular types of regions is also a great thing to have.
So it's not only about financials, but actually about strategic positioning and utilizing someone's network.
I can actually attest to what Patricia said. I was in a board meeting, I think, when was it? Last Monday, I believe, right, Patricia? And it felt like a drafting session or brainstorming session more than a traditional board meeting where you run through financials. It really felt like the company itself wanted input, and they're really eager to learn from different perspectives. So I really appreciate the board meetings that we have with Wisefood, because it really is like we they learn from us, and everyone can bring their own perspective and background. I found that very, very nurturing and positive, to be honest.
So we've touched base a little bit on the history of both Wisefood and Just. Now, Alex, we will turn to you for a little history lesson. Delivery Hero is a proud investor in both Just and Wisefood. However, we have not invested in sustainable companies forever. And you've been part of making it happen, and you've also led these investments from start to end. Why did we start investing into sustainable startups from the very beginning, and why has this been a project close to your heart?
I think when we started off institutionally to set up the M&A and VC team at Delivery Hero, that was pre-IPO. We were a really, really small company, yet had huge ambitions, right? We were back then a small company, but we knew we wanted to deliver to millions of orders per day to hungry customers, right? But we knew doing so would essentially probably not be the greatest impact to the environment. So we thought about how we directly or indirectly, directly through investing or indirectly through sort of our help operationally, contribute to a better sort of ecosystem and avoid the expense that all of our orders and packaging, for example, has on in the world or in the ecosystem. So the idea of our TSR investments popped up and our operational deals, and there I think we looked at probably more than 50 companies and really screened hard all of them, thoroughly due diligence them, and discussed with all of the founders the vision, and selected what we believe the ones that were closest to what we as Delivery Hero feel like the values we embody and the impact we want to create. And I think both Just, Wisefood, Biolution, Sense Impossible are a picture perfect example of how we believe we want to run our business, namely impactful, scalable, and innovative. And that is a fair representation, I think, what we as Delivery Hero do, and I think what all of these companies so successfully do. And I think that's why we're so proud to have them on board.
I didn't know that, Alex. That's some good inside information.
Well, always happy to contribute, bringing some more value. Just and Wisefood, you're both part of the food ecosystem, but in different ways. So you cater to two quite different set of products, but both are aimed at making the entire industry greener as a whole. And while we've been talking a bit about how both businesses have been founded, we soon want to get into what your products actually look like, because we haven't really touched base on that yet. But before we go into that, we want to stay a little bit longer on the investment side. So Alex, please stay put. When we started to build up sustainable investments at Delivery Hero, and now also in the future, what type of products are we actually looking to invest into? What are you searching for when you're on your scouts?
I think the panel here is a picture perfect example of what we're looking for, right? The innovativeness of Just is exactly what we would like to have in a company that we partner up. The easy scalability of Wisefood with their easily scalable product is something that I think also addresses the second point of it. And in general, I think all panelists represent the impact that I alluded to before. I think innovativeness, scalability, and impact is what we would like to see in all of our partners. And I think the panel here is a good representation of it. Now, I think what probably doesn't win me the most popular vote on this panel is that given we have a fiduciary duty to our shareholders and we work with third-party money, there needs to be a return on investment, right? It is, I wouldn't say it's the most important at all, but it is a factor when we do our investment. So the other ones are way more important, but of course we don't want to throw bad money into bad ideas. So all of these companies, we strongly believe they will grow and make an impact, be innovative and scalable, but also we believe that it will be a good investment for us.
Do you think that's also sort of a prerequisite for being more of a corporate investor rather than a pure play VC fund?
Yeah, I think that's good additions. I think what we bring as value add is not the normal VC approach by just bringing capital. We believe all of those companies that we selected and they selected us, that there's a win-win relationship. So we can not only bring capital, but also preferably operational help by providing them with orders or connecting them to restaurants or developing jointly biodegradable packaging solutions. So we think there's more than money that we can bring to the table if and only if the company itself desires that. And we're always, I think our approach is, you guys need to tell us whenever you want help and we're happy to contribute. We don't want to insist, you do whatever you do best, but we're here to help and support you because ultimately we want to partner with you and we want to provide you with our platform and our network within Delivery Hero. So please let us know wherever we can help. So I think, yes, this is more of a different approach than the normal VC where you mostly provide capital and less operational help.
So very much a win-win situation, like you mentioned, and partnership rather than traditional investment structure.
Yeah, correct.
That's a good takeaway. Now I want to enter the product side because I'm very excited to get to know and learn more about what you're producing. So Wise Foods products are already out in quite a lot of markets, and I know that your busy bees ranging from Seoul to San Francisco, potentially even Stockholm. Can you tell us a bit more about your best-selling product and why it sells so well?
Yeah, sure. Like I just prepared something, as you can see. So our best-selling product is still the super straw, how we like to call it. So it's an edible straw made out of apple fibers, grains, citric acid, and stevia. So first you can use it like a normal straw, and afterwards you can just eat it, and there's no waste at all. So that's our current bestseller all over the world. Like not in every country yet, but like we're going for it. And yeah, maybe I can say some more words to the product. Like a fun fact, it's more stable in alcoholic beverages. So if you drink it in a gin tonic or whatever, it's stable for up to 2 hours. And if you drink it in or use it in normal drinks, it's stable for 1 hour. So it's much more stable than a paper straw or traditional like or other straw alternatives. And yeah, I think the good thing is that we, of course, try to recycle as many leftovers, so apple fibers, as we can in our straw.
So it tastes like apple?
Oh, it does not. It tastes sweet sour, I would say, but it's kind of tasteless in the drinks because that's very important to hotels and restaurants because we don't want to alter the taste of the drink. It's more the other way around. So if you drink an Aperol, for example, or a Coke, the straw will taste sweet sour, but a little bit like your drink.
That's really clever. Have to buy myself some straws for the weekend then. What I would also like to get to know a little bit better is we understand that you're present in quite a lot of markets. But which ones are you focusing on at the moment? Do you see that there are some who are more early adopters in using the super straw, or is it just smack bam all over the world?
I mean, at the beginning, we started out in Germany, but the fun thing was that even though we didn't even have an English website, we got a lot of inquiries from South Korea, from Canada, from Andorra, like really like to us crazy countries we never thought about. And I mean, we didn't even have an English website, so I'm not sure like how they found out about us, but I think there was a little bit of PR, but we weren't very active in it. So it just happened, like people wanted to write about us because they think the topic has a huge impact and it's very interesting topic to watch. But to answer your question, like for the moment, I think we're focusing more on the EU, more on Europe because the plastic ban is coming. But of course, there are more countries globally in which also plastic bans are planned. But yeah, for the moment EU, but of course afterwards we also want to expand to other countries. But we're also active in like South Korea, Canada, just about to enter the US. So yeah, it's quite wild, I would say, and quite mixed.
Wild straws. But apart from straws, besides expanding into new markets, are you also thinking about expanding into new complementary products?
Like it's our vision to be the #1 for edible tableware. So we want to replace like all the single-use plastics and like small single-use plastics with more sustainable solutions. But of course, like only there where it makes sense. So we're going for cutlery. We already have the spoons. We're doing some stirrers. But of course, we're also like working on other like edible tableware products, small cups. So I think there's a lot of products to come, and we're aiming to have the broad portfolio ready until the plastic ban will be announced in July 2021 or active.
We will cheer you on from the sidelines on the way or in the next board meeting if your name is Alex. Merissa, you mentioned in the beginning that it took you a couple of years, was it 4, to develop your signature Just Eat powder. In a few minutes, I mean, that sounds like quite a lot of years to develop this powder or the magic Just Egg powder, but how was that journey? And also 4 years, you did never lose faith that you would make it?
It was quite a long journey. I would say we never lost faith. We always just put our head down and do work. We know very clearly what our mission is. And our mission is creating this new category of protein that ultimately will be the lowest cost, the most delicious, and the most nutritious. We just had to really focus and ensuring that all of our partners and our investors knew that focus and knew that mission, because from day one, that's never changed. It took us a little bit longer than we thought it was going to get there, but we've learned so much along the way and we're so much better for it. When we started this company, we knew what the product was going to be, but we didn't know exactly how to get there. And one of the things that we discovered along the way was an entirely new business model that is higher margin, greater scalability, particularly globally. And it was something that wasn't planned. And through advice, through our different advisors and investors, and with Josh, we came up with a business model that's very similar to Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola, if you're not familiar, they actually don't bottle bottles of Coke. What they do is they have a secret syrup, and that they create that syrup and they sell that syrup to bottlers all over the world. So a great example is in China. In China, they're partnered with Kafko and Swire. And what they do is they sell the concentrate or the syrup to them, and then they are able to mix in carbonated water and sugar and put it through their packaging system and then get it out through their distribution. And then thus they have over 90% distribution across China. What we're doing is we're taking our Just Egg formula, that magic powder, and we're selling it to food companies and egg companies all over the globe. In Europe, we're partnered with Eurovo, one of the largest egg processors in the area, and also, if you're familiar with PHW, partnered with them as well, one of the largest poultry producers in Germany. And what we do is we're selling them our powder, and then they're ultimately going to be manufacturing and distributing Just Egg, not only to retail stores, but to all of their partners. They're partners with some of the largest QSR chains and accounts. And we have that ability to focus on what we do best, which is a food technology company, and then enabling these food companies to get more sustainable, healthier products out into market.
I think actually, if I may, Merissa just explained exactly, I should have let her pitch what we would like in our CSR investment. You see how it already brought a very innovative product to a next level. They could have stayed at, and that's never has been their intention, they could have stayed as a vegan alternative, but no, actually attack the entire market, and in the process of doing so, pivot to a higher margin business. So also think about its higher scalability. And I think that's a picture perfect example of what we look for in companies, that way of thinking to really change customers, not only in niche, but really in the entire ecosystem is, I think, a picture perfect example of what we would like in the companies we partner with, and what we would love to see in all of our companies. So I think that she made the best pitch that I could ever make in explaining her business model and how she moved into different one.
Thank you, Alex.
Speaking of customers, have you noticed any change in behavior based on the groups that you're catering to?
What's happening right now with this global pandemic, the consumer preferences are changing so rapidly. We recently did a poll and where we surveyed consumers trying to understand the sentiment around their eating habits and preferences. Over 100% of people said that they thought that people will be fully plant-based in the next 15 years. In terms of like COVID-19, they're looking for more options that are plant-based. And consumers believe that plant-based is a healthier option. Now, rewind 7 years ago when we were building this plant-based egg, people looked at us as, what's plant-based eggs? And you guys are all probably looking at us as, what plant-based eggs are now? But I guarantee that a couple years from now, we're all going to be eating plant-based eggs, with our meat, and they're going to be a regular protein in your breakfast consumption.
We look forward to that moment. Patricia, do you see any similar consumer change in the behaviors that you are monitoring?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like regarding the straw topic, I think there were like people were like demanding it in supermarkets, but also in gastronomy. But for us, it was important to like, I mean, we started out before like the whole discussion started, and for us, it was important to like provide an alternative where people don't have to like change their habits, because I think like people always want sustainable things, but they are limited up to a certain level to really like change their behavior. So for us, it was important to be like both, to be like very practical to the end consumer, to the hotels, gastronomies, but also like to normal end consumers, I would say, but also to be like really sustainable.
Alex, is that also something you've noticed within the Delivery Hero stakeholder groups, that there's a search for more sustainable solutions?
I mean, it's difficult to answer for the entire group. I personally became flexitarian because of Josh, actually, just. I saw him that's how we first met, in a conference in Zurich. And by way of background, I'm South American, so very meat is, I would say, runs in my blood. But he gave such an inspiring story, and you need to see Josh. Josh is an ex-quarterback, right, from Alabama, which I guess is kind of a meat region. And then you see how his behavior transformed. And I was so inspired by his story that I wouldn't go that far to becoming a vegan, but his product tastes so well that I wouldn't mind eating just for the rest of the time, because I really don't see that much of a difference. And in terms of sort of the entire DH ecosystem, I do see a lot of a shift into the CSR focus. Definitely the pandemic increased that focus, but we also on the investment side try and always due diligence what kind of whenever we look at targets, what kind of CSR efforts or in general each of these companies have, to make sure that in the due diligence we don't find any red flag, and we prefer companies that have a CSR angle. So yes, I think we're probably the slowest among that panel, but we do see it in tiny steps at least.
Indeed. So I want to move on to another topic, and the topic is, surprise, surprise, impact. For many companies born in the last decade, impact is one of the key drivers, not only for strategy and vision, but also for individual employee motivation. And I think it's safe to say that this goes for every company represented on this panel today. And Merissa, if you could start with you and Just, how would you describe the impact you're looking to have? And what is it going to take for you to get that?
So I could start with just talking about the egg market a little bit, and then lean in a little bit more to your question. So over 1.4 trillion eggs were laid last year. Eggs are by far the most consumed animal protein on the planet. In Germany today, 235 eggs per person on average are consumed on a yearly basis. Mexico is the highest, around 360 eggs per person per year. And eggs are everywhere. We start with breakfast, but think about going through the grocery store and going to your egg aisle. The egg aisle is the most frequently shopped section of your grocery store. In the frozen breakfast section, there are tons of egg sandwiches and burritos and quick and ready to eat meals. When you're going to your local Starbucks or QSR, things that are on the menu, eggs. And then it's also a functional ingredient. So not many people think about when they're consuming a waffle or a muffin or a cake, that an egg is inside of that particular food that you're eating. And so for us, the egg is ubiquitous. It's ubiquitous culturally too. Every single country is is eating eggs today. And so it's very familiar. And so for us, that's why the egg was so important, because that consumption is so high. And we want people to have that a part of their ritual, of their everyday breakfast routine. And we feel like that can have the most impact. So we have the product, we have the business model, right, where we're selling our Just Egg formula, our magical powder to these partners so that they can get it out globally. And when you look at the economics of an egg from a water standpoint, for a single egg, it requires 52 gallons of water. So we're 98% less water. From a land standpoint, you think most of the world's land today that's usable for farming is either occupied by animals or animals are eating what's being produced on those farms. So we use over 86% less land than conventional eggs today. And then we have a 93% lower carbon emission. So if we can create a product that is delicious, and Alex, like you said, is one that you're not really sacrificing anything by not eating eggs, right? Because it's the same taste, and ideally it's more nutritious as well, and it's the lowest cost option. That's how we think that, we can win and have the most impact.
Thank you for sharing. It sounds like you're on a good track. When do you think you will be able to stop and say, okay, look, team, now we've had a massive impact. What's next? Like, do you have any type of time period that you're working towards, or is it more like we're in a good role now and we're just going to continue?
The egg market is $258 billion. Like I said, people are eating eggs all over the world. I think our ideal world is that we're producing that Just Egg formula all over the world and empowering companies all over the world, and that our product is ubiquitous, just as ubiquitous as Coca-Cola. And the largest egg producer today produces 19 billion eggs. By 2023, we plan to produce and sell 3 billion eggs. So we have a long journey to go, but I think we're going to get there.
That's a good vision.
Can I ask, Merissa, out of curiosity, how do you count the eggs that you produce, given they're not eggs, right? When you say you want to produce eggs, what is that? Do you weigh them? How do you define? Because it's not the egg that you ultimately use, right?
Yeah, so we call them egg equivalents. So an egg equivalent is what would be considered one shelled egg, so 1.5 ounces. And when we're talking about eggs, we're talking about at the farm level cost. So think about when you have a chicken, and the moment that egg comes out of the chicken, think about that in the sense of our powder. And the moment the powder comes out of the facility, that's what we're comparing across as a unit standpoint. Today, we just hit a major milestone, or just this week, where we've sold over 50 million egg equivalents to date. And they take shape in many forms. Our Just Egg Folded, the patty breakfast sandwich that we're talking about, is about 2 ounces, so a little bit more than one egg. And then our bottle that we sell to consumers has about 8 eggs in it.
Thanks.
Alex, we will move on with you actually now. At Delivery Hero, one of our core values is we're heroes because we can. I'm sure you recognize that. But a little bit familiar, yeah. But for this conversation now on a higher level, it also translates to the fact that we want to leave a company behind that the next generation can be proud of. And having a positive impact on the delivery ecosystem is tightly connected to that. When you are looking for investing into sustainable solutions, do you cater in the impact? And if so, how do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said before, impact is one of the 4 items we look at when we do these type of CSR investments. And I'd like to think that we define ourselves. I mean, you just heard Merissa, right? I don't think there's any more things that we can add apart from the success of our partners, right? I mean, less water, less CO2 footprint, and less land. I mean, this is something that actually makes us proud. So the success of our partners or their impact actually kind of we're proud and feels like a bit that we are helping. So I think I'd like to see that through our investments, we help these companies having a greater impact even more. And these, I said, cannot only be financially, but also operationally, right? I mean, we've alluded to doing more than 4 million orders per day. Now, if we can find a packaging solution that these 4 million orders are having less or preferably even no plastic at all, that would allow us to have a huge impact, right? I mean, every day 4 million packages without any plastic, that would be an amazing outcome, and that we're working with Biolutions right now to achieve that, to develop products that don't contain any plastic and are simply biodegradable. So I'd like to say that through the success of our partners, that's the biggest impact, at least on the CSR side, we can think of, and that's the stuff that makes us proud.
I'm glad that you mentioned packaging, because we're stepping into that now again. Obviously, packaging is a huge topic at the moment, especially in the business of delivering food. And Patricia, you mentioned the ban of single-use plastic products, which is coming into place in Germany next year, 2021 July, I think. And your bread and butter is to replace as many pieces of single-use plastic as possible. What impact have you been able to see that you've had so far in doing so?
See if we have impact is, of course, by the plastic items we could replace so far. So for the straws, we were already able to replace like around 100 million straws so far, and we're still counting. But of course, another big important point for us is like also how many waste we can avoid, because like if you eat our straw, you don't have waste at all. And of course, we want to recycle as many leftovers as possible. So I think that's the 3 things we are measuring at the moment and will be in the future, of course.
Cool. And another thing that I find quite interesting about Wisefood as a company is that transparency and honesty is also part of your company values. And you have a quite specific way of living this, especially in one part of your supply chain. Do you care to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, as our product, as you can eat the product, we have to apply to like food standards. And so we also want to look for more sustainable packaging. And there are a lot of different options out there. So up to now, we have a fully recyclable foil, but of course, we also want to become more sustainable there. And we could have switched to something that looks sustainable. Like you have the paper, you may have seen it in supermarkets a lot. There's paper outside, but there's still like foil inside. So it looks sustainable and it looks more sustainable, but in fact it's not. So it's really not good at all for recycling. It's even worse than normal foil. That's why we decided to be like honest and to really do our education part as well. So we were more about, okay, then we want to educate people and really tell them how it is, and like wait and invest into a really like full 100% paper packaging machine. I mean, that wasn't always very easy, because like at first sight, people don't understand why you're not like packing in paper right away. But I would say sustainability is a process, and it's like most of the times more complicated than you think. And we still have a long way to go, but we decided for ourselves, we always want to be honest, and we don't want to use like sustainability as a buzzword, but we really want to do our homework and be a little bit like, I mean, we're still super fast, I would say, but a little bit slower at some points, but still super fast, but be honest, and then really choose like the version where we can be proud of and also our partners can be proud of. So that's one example like I can mention.
Patricia, I totally agree with you that sustainability means so many different things, particularly when you're trying to build a product that also has a margin that you're looking for to make your company successful for the long term. How do you balance looking at all of these different types of sustainable packaging options, knowing that a lot of them are a lot more expensive than the traditional packaging route?
Like how we decide for which version we want to go, or?
Like you mentioned that you use a sustainable foil, right? Which was probably more expensive than a regular foil. Like, how does your company balance, knowing that there's so many different layers of sustainability and some of these higher cost options for packaging are more expensive? How do you balance that?
I think we always, or as I said, like it always needs to be practical. So we're always going for like the sustainable solutions we can be proud of, but still, of course, we have a strong look onto our consumers and customers and see if they will accept a maybe higher price or also like maybe some other points. But of course, like we're always asking our customers and getting a lot of customer feedback beforehand. So I think I would say it's a mixture between like technical side, doing our homework there, but also like going out to the market like very, very fast and getting a lot of feedback for the solutions we're proposing. So we're testing on a small scale, I would say, and sometimes we're also like we have to develop to go somewhere. I think when the quantities are getting higher and higher, we of course like can reduce our costs somewhere. So I think that also helps to get the support of our current customers and tell them, if you support us now, like I mean, it's a mission. We're all on it, and we can like reduce prices, but we have to invest into sustainability now, and it's very important. So I think that's our approach, I would say.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Now we've spent quite a lot of time in the now, and I'd like to catapult us further into the future. Looking at the industry and where we stand today, there is a lot of things to do. While we can't do everything at once, we can begin somewhere. And I would say I'm hopefully speaking for all of us by saying that we're actually just getting started. Merissa, you're dealing with something that one could label as conscious food. And where do you see the future of that going?
I think at the end of the day, people want to eat food that tastes good. So like I said earlier, while I do think that consumer behaviors are drastically changing towards more conscious food that nourishes the planet and also nourishes our body, we can't fully take a bet on that, right? We need to be able to continue to make products that the consumer can afford, that is absolutely delicious and better than all of the competition, and ultimately the most nutritious. So while I do think that consumer behavior is definitely trending in that direction, what's true of our company is that will always be our focus, just in the case that it doesn't.
And Patricia, if we look into the future of wise food, maybe this is a bit of a too high level question, but do you think we'll ever live in a world that's plastic free?
I hope so. Like, I honestly hope so, that we will live in a world that will become more and more plastic free. But of course, I also like understand that it's a process and that we can't get there like next year, but we want to like be part of it, and we're contributing to it to become more and more plastic free. And I think with more innovations, with more R&D, I think it will be totally manageable. And yeah, we believe that it's possible. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but hopefully in the near future.
Making the impossible possible. Alex, with the scale that Delivery Hero has, it also comes a level of responsibility. We play a part of making this industry greener in the way we can. What do you think is the next steps for Delivery Hero going forward?
I think I'll try my very best to answer that a question, difficult to answer though. I think ultimately we want to continue creating an impact with the right partners, right? Jointly attacking what we believe are the challenges of our industry, such as the packages that we each and every day put onto the ecosystem, but also sort of the non-animal meat alternatives that we've been working on. I think creating a sustainable future doesn't end at packaging, right? There's so many other industries, such as the non-animal food products that Justice is representing, but also reducing our carbon footprint via I mean, autonomous driving, for example, drone delivery, or investing in food waste. There's so many industries, I could go on and on and on, where we could create an impact through our scale, financially, operationally, where we can help young entrepreneurs or even seasoned entrepreneurs with larger scale companies to have an impact. And I think we ultimately, as said, define our success through the success of that respective entity and target and company. So as I think sky's the limit here. We really, there are so many industries that we can dwell into to create an impact, contributing locally and globally, that I think through our scale, we have really are able to change at least into a little bit into a more sustainable future.
And if we look at the success of our partners here today as also partially a little bit of our success, then we're on a very, very good track, I would say. I have a final question for all of you before we step into some of the questions that we're receiving from our audience today. And since we're all in the business of consumption, I'd like to know what was the last sustainable thing that you bought, or alternatively, as we're also in the business of very closely following customer behavior, have you changed into any more sustainable habits this year? And if so, which ones? Alex, take it away.
I hope I will go third. Yesterday I had a non-animal burger. Unfortunately, I only had half of that, so it only counts to 50%. But I did think of and I think I've been using ever since we came into contact with Wisefood, not a single plastic straw. So I think it was so easy to change the habit. It didn't cost me anything. It was so easy to really change that habit that through Wisefood, I was able to eliminate that for me and a bunch of my friends. So I think that would probably be the one thing that I changed in my habit when it came to sort of sustainable and more CSR type of behavior.
Cool. One for the books. Patricia, what about you?
Like, I would say, or maybe like one thing I want to mention again, where I'm very like private, I would say I'm already like super conscious about what I buy, what I also don't buy. As just Alex said, I think it's not always about what you buy, but also like what you avoid and what you don't buy to make a statement and to like change something. But business-wise, like I'm of course super proud of the packaging machine we bought for the straws. And I think one thing additionally to that, what we changed is so the traveling part. I mean, I think what COVID showed us is that you can just like travel less and also like have an impact there. And it's also working, like the remote panel here, which is working like 100% perfect, I would say.
For me, when I started at Just, I was a full-blown carnivore. And I have had a journey over the past 5 years with the company. For the past 3 years, I've been fully vegetarian, but our eggs haven't been in the market. So I was still eating eggs as part of being vegetarian. And now I'm proud to say that we definitely eat our dog food at our company, me including. And as long as I can get my hands on it, because they're flying off the shelves, but I eat a Just Egg folded sandwich almost every single day for breakfast or lunch, pretty religiously. So getting my Just Egg protein.
You see, Sigrid, that's exactly why I wanted to go third, because all answers are better than.
Well, Merissa's answer to the question actually makes a really nice bridge to one of the questions from our audience, because I think everyone now is super interested in having some of their magic Just Egg mixture or potion. Question from one person is, will Just be available in German supermarkets in the future? And question from me, if so, when?
100%. That is definitely a goal of ours. We're actively working with our partners, like I mentioned, Eurovo and PHW, to make that happen. And ideally, it's going to be in the next 6 to 12 months.
Okay, perfect. I'm also vegetarian, you see, and I still eat eggs, but I would really like to transition. So good news.
Well, I'm happy to send you some samples so that you can try.
Really?
Yes, yes, of course.
Mission accomplished. Perfect. We also have a question for you, Patricia, and it is if there are any risks that go into the supply chain when it comes to raw material and the availabilities here, and if so, how you are mitigating this. And this person also, by the way, loves your product, and so do we, obviously.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much for the love and for the support. And I would say as long there's food production and as long as there are some leftovers and fibers, so we won't have any problems. And we also have like grains in it, which is also not a big deal. So we are not afraid of having any supply chain issues, even if the whole world is drinking out of wise food straws.
Let's hope that they do soon. We're running out of time.
Shameless marketing, but Patricia, where can we buy your straw, the Wise Food Super Straw?
Yeah, it depends on which country you're living, but you can buy it in a lot of supermarkets, for example, at Edeka, Hofer, Globus, Famila. So they are pretty German, I would say, but also we're working also when you're from hotellerie or gastronomy, you can buy it at food services, at Transgourmet, Chefs Culinar, and we'll probably announce some more in the next few weeks. But if you're not sure, just check out our website or just write me at patricia@wisefood.eu, and then I will tell you all the other partners, because I think that would take too long. But thanks a lot, Alex, for the chance to announce some of our valued partners here. And of course, you can buy it from our website, but we always want to support our partners, so buy it from them.
That's nice. All right, we need to start wrapping up. It's been a very busy hour. I would like to thank all of our lovely panelists for sharing so openly and for being able to follow you on your journeys, and they're not over yet, so we're also very much looking forward to what's to come. Also like to thank everyone who's been tuning in and taking part in this panel. We're continuing with this virtual event series, HeroTalks, during the rest of the summer and the rest of the year. So stay tuned for more. Until then, I wish you a great green day and see you next time.